Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. The Canadiens lose another game against the Buffalo Sabres. Really unfortunate loss for the Canadiens. They lose 3-2 or 4-2. It's just they played a solid 30 minutes, but it was unfortunately the back 30 minutes we didn't play enough. Defense in the first 30 minutes, especially the opening minute of the game. Just the first period, the beginning of the second period. Just not solid at all for the Canadiens. A lot of defensive lapses. The Canadiens had some chances for sure, but didn't capitalize on any of those. And we let them score 3 times in a row on us on home ice. It's just those are just, especially in this opportunity that we were given right here, against the Buffalo Sabres, a team that is very rapidly approaching our position in the Atlantic Division. We had such an opportunity at home to really take it to them like we did in the back 30 minutes of this game. We had an opportunity to get 2 points and expand our lead against Buffalo a little bit, but instead Buffalo with this win creeps to within 2 points of the Canadiens for that third Atlantic spot. They're only, we're only ahead of Buffalo by 2 overtime loss points. We have the same amount of wins at this point in the season. That's just the way it is right now. The Canadiens are every game from here on out is a must-win game. That's the reality of it. Obviously, that's not going to happen. We're not going to win every game from now to the end of the season, but it's just especially when we play opponents like the Buffalo Sabres, who we play again, at the end of the month here. We're going to be playing, the Bruins coming up here. We're playing some other Atlantic opponents, but every team in the Atlantic Division right now is winning games, full stop. We've been talking about it a while now, but obviously Tampa Bay is 9-0-1 in their last 10. Detroit's playing as I speak right now on Thursday night, but they're 7-2-1 in their last 10. Obviously Buffalo's 7-2-1 in their last 10 on a 2-game winning streak. Boston's 8-2-0 in their last 10. Every Atlantic team is winning games right now, and this is the worst time for the Canadiens to be slipping here, so they need to figure out a way to get back on the horse a little bit. I feel like they're still playing solid hockey. I think that they had a real opportunity to win this game, but I think if the Canadiens want to be a team that competes in the playoffs, competes for a Stanley Cup, they need to get over this thing that they've been doing, over the past couple of years now, where they, last year as well into this year, not just playing a full 60 minutes. If we're gonna play a game that we should play, from the beginning of the game, and to concede 44 seconds in to the game, into the first period there, and start on the back foot a minute into the game is just not a recipe for success. And that's the deal breaker. 3 different goals that all come from odd man rushes, all that kind of stuff, just opportunities where the Canadiens could have prevented those goals from going in, but they had defensive lapses, couldn't have the right coverage. Montembeault not really at fault for any of them. It's just they're 2-on-1s, shorthanded goals on partial breakaways, and all that kind of stuff is the difference there. And we definitely had an opportunity to win this one. I feel obviously Buffalo scored their third goal 2 minutes and 25 seconds into the second period, and then didn't score again until that empty net goal, with less than a minute to go in the game. And the only reason they got that one is because Lane Hudson broke his stick on a one-timer opportunity. So definitely opportunities for the Canadiens to make something happen in this one and come back. But we're also just you can only expect the Canadiens to come back and win games so many times. And to ask the Canadiens to now come back from being 3-0 down because of their own defensive errors in the opening parts of the game, because they weren't playing well, it's just not feasible, and it's not going to be feasible against any team, really. Every team in the NHL is playing really good hockey right now, and the Canadiens need to find a way to match that a little bit, because, if we allow this to continue to skid the way that it has been, and I'm not saying that the Canadiens have been bad by any means. I think the Canadiens have been playing really well. Even with this loss, they're still 6-3-1 in their last 10. They're still, sitting at, 7th in league standings right now. So they're still playing really good hockey. They're playing really well. But Like, that's the problem, is every other team in the NHL is playing really well. Tampa Bay is, up at second in the league right now. They're almost unstoppable at this point. Detroit is playing really well. They're fourth in the league. Buffalo's right behind us, of course, eighth in the league. They've got that 61-point mark, and they have a game in hand on the Canadiens. So it's just like the standards have been raised, right? Like, I feel like compared to where we were last season trying to push for the playoffs, the standards are a lot higher right now, in that the Canadiens, like we cannot afford to lose multiple games in a row at this point. Like, the Canadiens cannot have long-term memory at this point. We need to continue to fight. Every game that we get the opportunity to get points, we have to be able to come away with at least a couple points here, because the Buffalo at this point is probably going to catch up to the Canadiens. I don't see a world where the Canadiens can keep up with the pace of Buffalo, Detroit, and Tampa Bay. So it feels likely to me that the Canadiens are going to drop into the wildcard position, and then it just becomes a race between those teams. Buffalo, Boston, right below Buffalo with 60 points. We have a 3-point lead against them, and then Toronto, we've got a 6-point lead on them. So it's definitely a race as well. Obviously, we want to be as high up as we can in those standings, and we don't want to settle for a wild card spot. But I just don't see any of those teams, Tampa, Detroit, or Buffalo, slowing down anytime soon. They're all playing tremendous hockey right now. But I think what I could see is from the back 30 minutes of this game that we played today, like, the Canadiens are able to compete with these teams. It's just the Canadiens getting in their own way and losing themselves games because they can't find a way to shut the door, early on, like allowing 2 goals, one of which in the first minute of the game, the other one on a shorthanded goal in the first period. It's just not an acceptable way for a playoff contending team to start a game. And if they're going to continue to play like that, we're not going to make the playoffs. So they need to figure out a way to make things happen a little bit better and start the game a little bit sooner, play a better 60-minute performance, whatever you want to say. Long story short, I think you can tell it's just a really disappointing game, and an opportunity that the Canadiens had, not even a week after playing Buffalo for the first time. One of the first times this season. It was a great opportunity for the Canadiens to get some revenge on a team that is looking to take their position in the playoffs. It could have been a 6-point gap between us and them with a win tonight, but unfortunately, a regulation loss puts them only 2 points away, and now it's win or go home at this point in terms of our spot in the standings. And it might sound a little bit dramatic, and it might be a little bit. Obviously, Buffalo passing us and taking our Atlantic third spot there puts us in the wild card spot, but we still have a solid lead on other wild card teams. But one game leads to another, and if the Canadiens can't find a way to get back on the saddle a little bit and start winning games, start getting some more points in our next few games, we're gonna fall out of the playoff spots, and it's disappointing to see considering how well this team has played. But that's the standards that this league is giving the Canadiens right now, with how good other teams in the Eastern Conference in general have been. The expectation for the Canadiens is to win almost every game they play, because if they don't, they're going to fall out of the playoff spot. So I think looking forward from this one, it's just a matter of, can the Canadiens get back on, get back to where they play well, play a more 60-minute performance and start getting some more points here. And are they able to get back in the win column and don't let this loss become a streak here? That's the biggest thing, because if we as I've been saying, if we allow this to become a streak, if we allow ourselves to start losing a few games in a row here, we are going to fall out of the playoff conversation. And then we'll be putting ourselves in another position very similar to where we were, this time last year after that Four Nations break, where we have to go on, an insane run to even consider, being in the playoffs. And I think considering the way that the Canadiens have played this year and how impressive they've been, I feel like, we're much better than what we were last year, and I feel like we deserve to go to the playoffs here. And I feel like it's just up to them to execute on some of the things they've been able to do all year. So Those are pretty much my takes there. It's just disappointing to see an opportunity like that go to waste 2 times in a row there. Both of those games against Buffalo, both of those games being wins, the Canadians would have had a much better. They would have had I think 8 or 10 points difference between them and in Buffalo there. So it would have been a much bigger deal there, but. This is the way we're at. Credit to those teams in the Atlantic, Buffalo as well, playing really good hockey and forcing the Canadians to be really successful. But now the Canadians have to answer here, and it's not going to be an easy road. As I mentioned, we're playing Boston on Saturday night. And then we've got the Vegas, Colorado situation going on. Both games at home, so that might change things a little bit. But Vegas and Colorado, both very good teams. Obviously, Colorado, the #1 team in the league right now. So that's a big deal. And then even bigger deal, next Saturday, the 31st, the Montreal Canadiens play the Buffalo Sabres once again in Buffalo to end that season series. And that's going to be a big game. If it's a big game now, but we'll have to see where things shake out over the next 3 games leading up to that, where the standings look at that point. But I think if you look at it like that, pretty much every game that we play against Atlantic opponents here, or even Eastern Conference opponents going into the end of the season, are going to start to be must-win games here if the Canadians want to put themselves in a solid playoff position here. Because again, none of these teams are slowing down. None of these teams are going to sit down and let the Canadians just coast to the playoffs. They have to win games here. They have to win the games that matter, and the games that matter are ones like tonight. But on the plus side, right, we have an opportunity against 2 of the teams. Over the next week or so, we have the opportunity to win 2 pretty crucial games against 2 of the teams that are currently in the wild card positions here, and give ourselves a little bit of leeway. Go on a winning streak here. Maybe we even take a point away from Colorado in Vegas. And find ourselves back up into that Atlantic spot position. But yeah, I think just generally speaking, obviously it's not the end of the world. We're still in a good position, and we can still, get some points, win some games, and put ourselves in a good position for the end of the season here. But it's just disappointing to see opportunities like this one go to waste, where we have an opportunity to put a good amount of space between us and the next best team in the Atlantic Division, and we fail to do that not once but twice over the past 10 days here. So yeah, it's just disappointing, especially when all of the reasons why Buffalo won this game, in my opinion, are because of them taking advantage of defensive lapses from the Canadians. I feel like the Canadians made it way too easy on them in the opening period there. I also felt like the power play for the Canadians was not solid at all. We had a bunch of chances on the power play, and we did not convert on any of them. We're 0 for 3 on the whole thing, and obviously, a shorthanded goal was scored against us, so we were 0 for -1 for 3, if you will. So, yeah, just a disappointing performance in my opinion. I think the back half of the game was definitely impressive. We still managed to get 34 shots on goal in this one, despite all of that, but. I feel like in general, we got to be better, especially when we're playing teams that it really means a lot to win these games in terms of our standings position here, and we just weren't able to get it done. But moving on to the plus side, the positives of this one, we have 2 goal scorers in this one. Cole Caulfield gets his 26th of the season, a nice little one-timer pass from Suzuki, who gets his 41st assist of the season, and Mike Matheson gets a tertiary assist there. It's his 19th assist of the season there. So nice to see Cole Caulfield continue to score goals, keeps his goal streak alive here. So looking good there. And then Nick Suzuki is able to score off of a rebound from Bolduc. He gets kind of a partial breakaway, takes a shot on net, and then Suzuki is able to pick up the rebound for his 16th goal of the season. Zach Bolduc gets his 9th assist of the season there. So Bolduc had a really nice game, I felt like, as well. I feel like he's really flying around the ice there. He really found his legs in this one. He could have had more than just the 1 assist in this one. Could have had a couple of goals in there as well, but unfortunately weren't able to get it done there. But yeah, and then we definitely had an opportunity, even with scoring those 3 goals going against us there. We definitely had an opportunity to come back and win that game. We just couldn't really find a way to put anything else past the goaltender. And obviously, in the dying seconds there with the 6-on-5, Lane Hudson breaking his stick is what kind of kills the game for us there with that empty netter going the other way. But yeah, again, like the moral of the story here, in my opinion, is just you cannot put yourself in a position, you cannot call yourself a playoff team, a playoff contending team, and allow yourself to let up 3 unanswered goals in the first 30 minutes of the game. Like it's just that you can't do that. You can't allow that to happen to you, especially on home ice. And if the Canadians want to be contenders, if they want to be playoff team, a Stanley Cup contending team this season and moving into the future, they need to be able to figure that out a little bit better. Obviously, there's youth showing there and all that kind of stuff, and I get that, but eventually this team is going to have to find a way to play a solid 60 minutes and shut the other teams down, offensively, defensively, all that kind of stuff, and win in our own stadium, all that kind of stuff. Like, I think that's the biggest thing moving forward. But looking to the future, we got a bunch of really big games here. Boston, obviously a huge game, and then a week from that game, a rematch again against the Buffalo Sabres, and that's one, in my opinion, that we're gonna have to win. So that all remains to be seen, of course. So that is all I have for you guys today, and hopefully we'll get back in the win column here, get another 2 points against Boston on Saturday, and I will see you after that to break it all down.